Okay, so the final step, or step 6, is ensure process and people alignment through a policy deployment or goal translation process. Now, one of the keys to integrating excellence into the business strategy is a formal goal translation or policy deployment process. So, from all this crafted, sana kanang plans, strategy with all the implementation of this MCP, CSF, so pa to, KPIs. Now, the last step is to integrate excellence into the business strategy by formal goal translation and policy deployment process. Kay why kwinta ang imong um, sana identify sa CSF, pag-identify sa imong KPIs, sa imong MCPs, kung di ra pud ay kakabaw how to translate the goal and how to deploy policies, no? So wala ra po'y kwinta ang imong mga plano. Katong tanan nimong gibuhat nga pag-translate, those are plan, those are strategies. But how do you translate, no, your goal? How do you deploy your policy in order to achieve your goal or your desired result, no? So man ang step 6, ensure process and people alignment through a policy deployment or goal translation process. Okay. So, if the mission and measurable goals have been analyzed, no, nabuhat na to ni mo tanan na itong gipang na step 1 to 5, no, in terms of critical success factors and core processes, then the organization has begun to understand how to achieve the mission. So, kung nabuhatan ni mong step 1 to 5, you now have a clear understanding, or you begin, sus mo pa may pagsugod di ay, you start to understand how to achieve the mission. Goal translation ensures that the whats are converted into how. So, kani imong what, kani, ay, sungtan si ikuha naman sa jay highlighter, or di naman sa mo highlight. So, kani imong what din he, ma-translate nimo or ma-convert nimo into how. Passing this right down through the organization using a quality function deployment or QFD type process as shown here. So, importante nga from your what, you convert it into how. So, mo naman ito imong gibuhat from step 1 to 5 para sa imong mga strategies. Karon, ay mo na pong buhaton ang pag-translate sa imong goal. No? So, what are you going to do? So, here is a practice of a goal translation process of a chemical process industry. Chemical process industry si Jaha. Now, they have identified 5 measurable goals. Kani. Be the lowest cost supplier by year end, double sales by 2000, achieve 12% market position in Europe by 2000, increase value added over GP consistent with our capabilities, achieve the highest organizational productivity in the industry, attain at least 12% integrated trend line return and target or measurement. Mo na ilang identified say tawag na measurable goals, no? These are listed under the heading what, di ba? Dinhe kani. So these goals, these measurable goals, are listed under the heading what? The top team listens to the voice of the customer and tries to understand how these business goals will be achieved. Kinsa may voice of the customer? Ang imong mga day-to-day employees kanang naay close contact dili sa COVID, close contact with your consumers kay sila ang best nakahibaw unsay gusto or unsay need sa imong customer. Now going back unsa ganito ng TQM, ang mission, it should be aligned with the needs and wants of your stakeholder, aka your consumers. So, the top team should listen to the voice of the customers. Now, and tries to understand how these business goals will be achieved. Karon, mo na ang ilang business goals. Sumamati sila karon sa voice of the customer in order that these 5 now identified goals should be or can be achieved. Now they realize that product consistency kani genetic product consistency, on-time delivery according to the voice of the customer, smo ni, no? Product consistency, on-time delivery, and speed or quality of response are the keys. Smo ni kuno ang pamaagi on how to achieve the goals. Now, these CSF are placed along the first row of the matrix, and the relationships between the what and the how estimated as strong, medium, or weak. So, mana dya, no? The relationship is strong, medium, and weak. A measurement target for the house is then specified. So, karon mo na ang katong ni jang gibuhat nga ijang gibangga bitaw. So, ang ijang what kani nga side, di man lagi mo highlight oy, kaning ijang what ijang gi-analyze through the voice of the consumers, no? Kung unsaon ni dyan ni pag-deliver. Sumo ni ang ninggawas kaning tulo dire. Genetic, product consistency, on-time delivery, speed, quality of response service. Sumo na ijang na-identify. Karon, ijang gi-measure according to strong, medium, or weak. Sumo na ang result. Mo ni ang result sa measurement. Ang next table now, what happens? Ang imong how kani nga side has now become your what sa mukha niya. The how becomes the what for the next layer of management. The top team share their goals with their immediate reports and ask them to determine their hows, indicate the relationship, and set measurement targets. This continues down the organization through a catch-ball process until the senior management goals have been translated through the what-how matrices to the individual task within the organization. So, mao ni ang imo na pong i-identify ang how aning kaning tulo, genetic product consistency, on-time delivery, speed, quality response, and target measures. Imo na po nang i-identify ang isang how so that ang imong how mahimo na pong what diri ang dapita, and so on until you will derive or you will end up with specific individual task, no? That can be implemented in the organization. So actually, this is just slimming down, no, from your sa tawag ana kanang big concept to activities and tasks. So mao na example media. Sama na. Okay. Okay, so let's go now to the implementation. Now, the top-down approach implementation. A successful approach to policy goal deployment and strategies planning in an organization with several business units or division is that mission, CSF with KPIs and targets, and core process are determined at the corporate level, typically by the board, no? While there needs to be some flexibility about exactly how this is translated into the business units, typically it would be expected that the process is repeated with the senior team in its business unit or division. So, the top-down approach is that the missions USF with KPIs, the target, and core process are determined by the corporate level or the top. No? So it would deploy down to the implementation matrix to capture both, no, the bottom. So magbangga ang top ug bottom so that they will end up with implementation metrics to capture both the top deployment and the bottom ideas and commitment. Remember nga na-discuss na to beforehand, no? Nga top management should listen to the voice of the customer or consumers. Kinsa ganitong voice of the consumer or customer? Ang bottom or the bottom line managers or kadtong mga day-to-day workforce nga maoy na ay close contact with the consumers. So both their ideas and the deployment of the top or the plan of the top management magtagbo diha sa tunga kani implementation matrix. So dapat magtagbo silang duha kay kung di na magtagbo, so there is something wrong with the plan or the strategy. So, dapat magtagbo na sila for effective implementation. They should be synchronized. No? Dapat synchronized and coordinated. Okay? Now, as shown here again, now it is safe to say that with regard to the core process, each business unit or function will begin to map this at the top level. So, of course, top level, man dyan na ang mo do the planning, di ba? So, this will lead to an understanding of the purpose, scope, inputs, control, and resources for each process and provide an understanding of how the sub-processes are linked together. Now, flow charting showing connections now with the procedure will then allow specific areas for improvement to be identified. So during the kanang tagbo din no, if there are unsay nga na karabang dili kadyo mo align, dili kadyo ni haom, no, so this will give them no kanang marag room for improvement. No, ma-identify nila if kadtong mga areas nga wa kaayo ning haom, how, no, unsaon nila maplanuhan nila nga muhaom gayud siya, or is it kanang better kung tangtangon, no, kanang murag murag kakuan mo anang magsapilya nga hinluan, so dapat ingana inigtagbo nila dapat smooth, so katong mga ning siwil, katong mga wa na hiswak, so it's either imong ipahaom kung pwede or tangtangon if not necessary, di ba? So man ay beauty sa kanang pag coordinate, no, makita nimo diha. Okay? Okay. Okay, so as previously described, in a larger organization, this approach may be used to deploy the goals from the corporate level through divisions to site department level. This form of implementation should be ensured, no, the top down and bottom up approach to the deployment policies and goals. The deliverables then after one planning cycle of this process in a business will be number one, an agreed framework for policy or goal deployment through the business. So dapat agreed framework, no, for policy or goal deployment. Dili kay usaray ganahan ani nga policy or goal framework. So dapat it should be agreed as what I have said before during the sana kanang bangga og naay ni siwil or wa na haom, no? So pwede siya ihaom if it can be, or tangtangon if di should bala or not necessary at all. So in doing so katong pag kanang naay bangga nimo, dapat you would end up with an agreed framework for policy goal deployment through the business. Another is agreed mission statement for the business and, if required, for the business units or division. Third, agreed critical success factors or the CSF with ownership at the top team level for the business and business units division. Agreed key performance indicators or the KPIs with target throughout the business. Agreed core business process with sponsorship at top team level. Number 6, a corporate CSF business unit CSF matrix showing the impacts and the first what or how's deployment. And number 7, at what or how CSF or process matrix approach for deploying the goals into an organization through process definition, understanding, and measured improvement at the business unit level. And number 8, focused business improvement linked back to the CSF with prioritized action plans and involvement of employees. No? So mao na siya dapat ang ma-achieve nimo during on one planning cycle. So doing all those things that we have discussed beforehand, no, you will end up with this results, no, or we call it the deliverables. Okay, for deployment and goal translation. Okay, so changing the culture of an organization to incorporate a sustainable ethos of continuous improvement and responsive business planning will come about only as a result of a carefully planned and managed process. Clearly, many factors are involved. Of course, di raman jud pud no kanang kadto dapat imong tutukan because there are other factors that are involved during the implementation process, no? So, strategic and operational planning includes, no, identifying strategic issues to be considered by the senior management team. It also involves balancing the present needs of the business against the vital needs of the future. So you also have to consider, no? So what are the present needs of the business against the vital needs of the future? You need to keep it balanced. Kay basin all your resources are allocated on the present needs, and then by the time nga moabot na ta sa atong future, the vital needs of the future wala na hinuoy resources nga available because nahurot na nimo og allocate sa imong present needs. So there should always be a balancing, no? So how do you do that, ma'am? Forecasting. Okay? Number 4, concentrating the finite resources on important things in order to adapt more rapidly and more appropriately. Now, concentrate on allocating finite resources on important things. So, kadtong mga issues or whatever it is nga ni-affect sa imong organization but has immaterial impact, no? The degree of impact is immaterial, nang dili jud kaadyo ba kanang impactful. So ay na siya tagai kaadyo og bili, no? So concentrate only your finite resources on important things. No, another is providing awareness of impending changes in the business environment. If the result of your sana kadtong planning or creating or drafting of strategic plans needs change in the entire organization, dapat aware pod ang mga tao beforehand. Dili kay pakuratan nimo ay mag-change na kay kuan nga na. No? And if there are also impending changes in the business environment, they should also be informed. Again, ultimate involvement of all persons in the organizations is a must. So, kung ang top management naka-predict nga hala mausab ang business environment in the future, no, dili na nimo dapat suluhon. You need to share it or you need to inform organization wide, no? That is about TQM. Dili ra ikaw magsulbad-sulbad sa problema because it might be that your other sana kanang workforce could have better idea than yourself, no? Remember that strategic planning is a continuous process by which any organization will describe its destination, assess barriers standing in the way of reaching that destination, and select approaches for dealing with those barriers and moving forward. So, muna gitawag na itong strategic planning. Of course, the real contributors to the successful strategic plan are the participants. Participants, mga jud. Unsay wa kay nindot nga strategic plan if you do not have participants, 'di ba?